Howdy, folks.
Howdy, folks.
Howdy,
We did the clap
folks.
started, Bob.
Yeah,
We're back.
we're back.
All right.
We're back for
Give us the
season
howdy,
2,
folks.
episode 2, with a special guest this time. The wonderful SecLilC. Do you still go by SecLilC?
I don't know. I go by whatever anyone calls me. Lil C, SecLilC.
Don't do that.
Lily.
That is dangerous here. You don't want that.
Look, I can't control what others call me. It's fine.
We'll give you the handle OJ the Clean Boy then.
I wanted that. You can have it for this episode.
Yeah,
Look,
anybody
if
who
I
does.
did it.
Just when we thought we
If I
put
did
that line of, just when we thought we put that to bed. All right, we have a special guest here today, Lily Clark, Lily SecLilC. Is that right?
No, but you know.
Close enough.
What is right? Because we've guessed like 4 times already and
Yeah,
been
we've
wrong
tried
every
4
time.
times. OJ the Clean Boy.
All right,
OJ
well we
the
have.
clean boy.
Lily, can you give the audience a formal intro, your right pronounced handle, and kind of who you are and what you're up to now?
Yeah, so, my full name is Lily Clark, or Lily Caitlin Clark with a C. So the handle is typically Lil C, which is derived from that. A lot of people don't realize that my name is literally Lil C. They just think it's like cute little name. But handle is SecLilC because security Lil C.
Yeah. I actually met Lily back in DEF CON 2 years ago, where I interviewed her for a job. And I feel like we were both just like the most tired people ever. Like that is the worst place to have an interview is DEF CON, because you're like staying up all night, having your ragers, and you come back and you're like, oh my God, what am I supposed to say here? What question am I supposed to ask? But Lily's an impressive like cybersecurity pen tester now. We can say that because she did pen testing for us for quite some time. And she took a nice little mental health break, which I'm jealous of. So that's
nice. It's so nice.
Yeah, how has that been going?
It's been awesome. And if I wanted to go back into it, I feel like I've got options, I've got places I could apply to, but I'm just not even ready. I've been reading a ton. I've been spending time with my family. I've been making better interpersonal connections that I had neglected previously. I am studying. I'm literally touching grass. Highly recommend that.
Wow.
That's wild.
I'm getting sun. I have some kind of color in my face for the first time in years. I'm cuddling my dogs more. It's pretty nice. This is Sweetie Pie, by the way.
She's just chilling. She's like, I'm
Yeah.
good to go.
For the unacquainted, Sweetie Pie is the ultimate homie.
Lily, you made correct me if I'm wrong, you made some sort of LinkedIn post or Twitter post recently about how you were kind of going through the process of re-interviewing for a pen test gig, and then you pulled yourself out because you weren't quite ready for it. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit, your thought process, like what you were thinking?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, because I feel like it is kind of counterintuitive to a lot of this advice that we do see. I had just a first round, talk with the recruiter. It went well. We went through methodologies and, some technical stuff, but not really that in depth. Enough to pass me on to further rounds that they're director of something or somewhat. I'm not entirely sure. And it was really pleasant, but, I don't feel like I'm fully recovered from, all the stuff that life has handed me. And I haven't fully processed everything. I just need to rest a little bit more. And they were looking for someone right away. And, I feel like we hear so often the advice, go through the entire process, because 1, it's good practice. 2, you want to have offers on the table for leverage. But it just, I knew I wasn't ready. And, seeing like David looking for people, and, people I care about looking for people, they get invested, like they care about this search. It takes time away from their day, takes energy away from their day. And I knew I wasn't ready. And I just straight up told them, like, I don't want to do that to y'all. I know I'm not ready. And I think it was very well received. It was, okay, well, like, let us know when you are. And, like, thank you so much for not wasting our time. And I don't know. I wish that was more normalized, because, yeah, I mean, I hate wasting people's time and resources. It just doesn't feel fair. It feels gross on some levels.
I was going to ask, did you find like the process this time around to be any less stressful than like the first time you went down the path of like going into pen testing, or oh, Sweetie Pie just freaked out.
Yeah, our ice machine made some ice.
Oh, nice.
Whoa.
Scary. But like, did you find it any more stressful, or was it less stressful coming around this time, even knowing that you weren't ready for a job or to go back into that market?
A little bit less. One, because I just didn't care. I wasn't ready. I was like, sure, we'll see what's out there. Maybe I'll feel the sparks of, determination and motivation. But yeah, I mean, there's less stress because I'm very fortunate enough financially. I had saved up a good amount of my money in order to take an extended break. And I understand, like, financial is what's keeping a lot of people from doing that. So I, have to express my gratitude in that realm. So there's less stress that way. Previously I was in a job that I could not step away from financially, and I needed to step away from mentally. But again, I was just really fortunate that it worked out that, like, David, you were like, this is going to sound so bad and people are going to get pissed, but you were the first person I interviewed with for a pen tester role. So it's not the normal situation. And it was stressful. Like, I was taking it so seriously. At the time, I was working a table at DEF CON and had to step away. And I was so tired. But the person I was working with was like, no, you have to go do this. Like, I'll cover for you. And so, I went there like 30 minutes early, maybe even an hour early. I was so stressed. I was like, I got to find a table. We have to get a quiet spot where we can talk. And, it ended up well, but I have an unorthodox, history for that, but definitely less stressful for a myriad of reasons.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's actually pretty nice to hear, right? Considering the fact, like, a lot of things that we hear from the market currently within tech is it's extremely stressful because nobody knows if we're in an employer's market or are we an employee's market. Like, it's seeming to go back and forth right now, and it's causing a lot of stress. And I mean, overall, as a career field, I feel like we're kind of shit at taking care of stress. So, like, what do you guys think on, like, what we can do better as a career field, not only at the, like, leadership level, but also at our own personal levels, right?
So I'm really glad that you're here to talk about this, because this is something that I had mentioned during the B-Sides talks that you and I gave, that David and I gave last year?
Yeah.
2 years? Whatever. It's been a minute. And it felt like kind of a side note, and it felt like something that I had to get in there. But we were doing, I guess for anybody that doesn't know, I guess we can find the link and, like, drop it in the comments if we are in the
Yeah,
description.
we can
One of our
drop
talks. Probably should.
the B-Sides talk.
But he and I were doing a bunch of kind of extracurricular work during the U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan, finding people, tracking them down, helping them get visas processed, that kind of stuff.
Ross and Lily actually helped that back end piece too.
Yeah, that's true. So there's
Also,
a bunch of us
I've
were doing that.
I've sent that talk to several people. Highly recommend to anyone watching. Go watch
Nice.
that talk.
We'll get it dropped into
Yeah.
the thing. What's the thing? The
Drop,
description.
drop the link in the bio.
Drop the link. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah.
But back onto my wild tangent.
Understand.
I felt like it was really important to put in there because I noticed that it was a real stressor for me. It was very difficult mentally to handle that kind of activity. And it was the first time that I'd really realized it and noticed it in myself. Now looking back, there were a lot of times previously where I was like, man, this is really not good for me. But to acknowledge that it's okay to break. Like, it's okay to not be okay for a little while. Handle what you have to handle. Take care of yourself first, because other people aren't necessarily going to do that. So it's nice to see that I wasn't just completely out in the wild by myself going, no, fuck that. Take care of yourself. A lot of the IT industry is extremely stressful. We're constantly we're constantly playing catch up. I'm playing catch up with the good guys. Good guys are playing catch up with the hacker guys. It's competitive, even though I'd call it a friendly competition most of the time. But you're trying to stop me from doing my job, and I'm trying to do my job. So it feels competitive. So there's always that element of stress and competition. I think that's part of why that industry is so stressful. So thank you for also putting your hand up and saying, hey, take care of yourself, because we burn out. And when we do it hard, and it's not good.
Yeah, and like on top of that, there's such, a hustle culture in business as it is, but then combined with IT, there's also a strong hustle culture. And straight up, I can't keep up with that. I've tried. I have years and years now, I have tried to figure out different productivity methods and, just altered it slightly. And, I even found a picture the other day of my normal day back in April 2021 when I was working with these lovely goons. And I didn't schedule out the work hours, but I saw before work, at lunchtime, and after work, the stuff I was scheduling out for me to do. And, it was stuff like, watch and practice Nahamsek's bug bounty course, and do CrowdStrike University, and also learn Russian, and also cut my cabbage for dinner. I was trying to get every single thing out there, and I was I didn't have time for anything. And I just don't know how people do it. I feel like at times I'm I don't think I'm cut out for this. And then I'm is anyone really cut out for this?
Yeah, no.
I frequently feel similarly. I look at my days and think these are the things that I need to do. These are the things that I really want to do to stay competitive in my field. To your point, you called out the hustle culture, and I think InfoSec as a whole, it's so broad. There's so much that we cover that it's easy to feel like if you don't know one facet, you don't know one topic, then you don't really know what you're talking about, and everyone's going to call you on your BS. So there's just this almost, I'll just call it a pressure to constantly want to learn. I think it's great that we enjoy what we do and we want to learn it, but there's also this external pressure to want to stay up to date, to want to know what the latest and the greatest is, whether it's a new exploit, whether it's a new vulnerability, whether it's a new tool that's coming out. We're just constantly trying to stay up to date. So there's that pressure. But I think you also I think it was Alex that touched on the weight of what we do. There are times when we're doing something as heavy as removing the extraction from Afghanistan. Sometimes it's not that big. Sometimes it's just you work in the industry, and maybe it's healthcare, pick your poison. You're still protecting people, and there's a level of weight that comes with that, and there's a level of responsibility that you feel. And I know I take a lot of pride in what I do, but I also feel like if I don't do my job well, there are people that can suffer from it, and that's not a small cross to bear.
I think we as offset guys have a little bit of an advantage here, right? We're able to cut ties, but think about the defenders, right? Where you get hit with ransomware, that's probably the worst day of your life, because it's similar to the military being called to like a recall. It could be 2 a.m. It don't matter, right? You show up, you got to fix stuff, and it's go until you're fixed. And I feel like that's kind of an issue from like a lack of staffing, maybe, right? Like we kind of pigeonholed ourselves into the hustle culture from the fact that it's usually 1 or 2 people in a 10,000 person company. How do we advocate for our company or our teams, right? Our blue teams to have proper manning so that they don't have to force in like having a John Hammond for every company, which ultimately isn't going to be reasonable, right? There's only one of him. There's only one cyber godfather. Huh?
Said, wouldn't that be a great world? A John Hammond in every company.
It would be. Just that wonderful beard everywhere. But like, yeah, like, I mean, how do you guys see us changing our market from just us being cyber people?
Yeah, that. It's tough, man. It's tough. How do you advocate? How do you translate? I think one of the things that we do, and you know, I think most of you guys know, I kind of straddle between a few different teams. But on the more GRC, the blue team side, one of the things that we try to do is translate risk. And we translate the risk of not having something in place, where more on the red team side, you're saying this is what could happen. On the blue team side, is saying this is what could happen, but also here's the financial impact. And trying to translate not just the financial impact of losing the asset, but what is the financial impact of losing the resource because they've been burned out too much, or not having enough resources, and what that's doing to your already strained team. What I think one of the things that we might be able to do better is start including that in our conversations. Is here's the cost of not patching this. Here's the cost of not implementing this tool. Here's the cost of losing this person because you overworked them. Maybe that's just part of the conversation now, is without proper training, or not training, but without proper support, you run an additional risk. We need that and a framework control. I'm going to make my own control framework with that control in it.
It would be interesting. Like, here's the cost of losing your entire IT stack. How are you gonna math that out? But it is a real threat. Like, it is a real,
it's realistic
viable
in today's
problem.
world.
Yeah.
We look at like Twitter, like, what are the threats of losing entire teams?
Well, they didn't lose an entire team. They shit-canned an entire team.
Okay, but we gotta look at that risk.
risk.
If we had looked at that risk prior, maybe they wouldn't have shit-canned the entire team.
Billy, do you have any blame sort of the industry itself in that you don't feel ready to kind of jump back in? Because I think one of the problems with the industry at large is it's very difficult to be kind of half-baked in our field. Like, if you're an accountant, you can kind of have, you know, maybe 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door, but it's really hard in our field to kind of take that same approach because things are so rapidly changing. There is so much to learn. It is a competitive field. Like, do we need to have a conversation about, like, maybe we don't all need to have our foot on the gas 100%, because then if you're going through something or you're not ready to jump back in, it just makes it that much harder.
I mean, yeah, that would be ideal in any field. It is a stressor, I can't lie, but it's also an internal stressor, you know, especially if you are in the community, you know, like, it's something you're seeing nonstop. It's something that's expected of you to grow, you know, like, and on another level, like, this is what I chose. Like, I came from a non-traditional background into security, and I'm very fortunate enough to have, you know, found a great role to start off with. I'm very fortunate enough to have, like, networked with wonderful people. And on some level, it's like, I don't feel like I could allow myself to take the foot off the brakes. It's like, I could either be all in or all out. And, like, maybe it's just a me thing. Like, I don't know how to balance that. You know, at some levels, there's expectations external, but there's also the internal and the whole gravitas of the job itself. Like, I don't know.
do you think like the unrealistic standards of holding ourselves to like YouTube content creators is causing stress? I mean, let's be real here, right? Like, and frankly, like I don't know DeFer. I don't know half the stuff on the other side. I know C++ and Python, but it doesn't mean that I can code like, a massive program. I can write some good malware, but no way in form or faction can I write like a GUI-based program. So, I mean, we see all these content creators coming on to our platforms and going, hey, look at what I did. Look at this DeFer thing. Look at how I hack things. Like, I hate to use John as an example, but he's the perfect example in this case. He's so brilliant that he does everything from blue to red. Yet we're holding as like cybersecurity leaders or our leaders in cybersecurity, not necessarily meaning that they have the same technical background. We're holding our people to that same level. And some of us are actually holding ourselves to try to be at that same level. Do you think like the content creation is driving a little bit of stress?
Yeah, I think there's some level of that. And I've even considered this myself. Like, there's been times where I'm like, I want to make a video and just be like, this is the reality. Like, me just yelling at myself, like, oh, I fucking suck. Like, this, I can't get this to work. I'm not good at this. And, like, I think on some levels that would be good to see. But then on another, like, would I want clients seeing that? Like, I don't want publicly that to be my image. And, like, I don't want publicly to be known as, like, just garbage, even though I feel like garbage. And like I don't know. I kind of waded back and forth with that as well.
Do you think the certification piece also plays into that as well? Kind of these certification companies that oftentimes are designed around you failing multiple times and you need to try harder and then you need to purchase the, wait here 3 months and then purchase the next exam retake and you're sitting for 48 hours up at a time or 24 hours. Like, isn't there something wrong? Like, isn't that all of that sort of counterintuitive to our mental health as professionals?
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings on certification. I mean, I came from a certification company initially. I worked at, I don't respect them, so I'm not giving their name out anymore. So, but I will say something I did respect about the company I worked for is, they had a free retake and there wasn't like, you have to do this in 6 months. I know there are certain companies out there where you only have their materials for a finite period of time and you need to take an extremely tricky exam within a unrealistic amount of time and then pay a ton of money after that. And I think that's predatory, especially if you're using a large name in the industry. If you're using your name as the gold standard, heavily predatory when there are other options. I don't think every company's like that. But, I don't know. I don't know.
Some that are like that.
There might be. And there might be some that are extremely expensive that say they hold a lot of weight or accepted by the government that don't mean shit.
Yeah, so holding one of these certs that might fall into the category that Lily just described, and then having failed an exam for another one of these that Lily may have just described, I feel all of this very deeply. I mean, I think you used a good word. I think predatory can be, it can be predatory. Like when you tout yourself as kind of the gold standard, and this is what some people almost deem as their hacker license gets thrown around. But it's cost prohibitive for most average people. I'm thinking about one thing in particular that was very tricky and very deceiving, and a lot of red herrings in a very limited time. You want to talk about mental health and that limited time. I remember I didn't sleep much. The time that I was sleeping, I was thinking about what I'm going to do next. I mean, it's no wonder that we struggle when you're preparing for that kind of test, and not just a certification test, but even when you're going through the training for that, it's just very stressful.
Yeah, and to similar points, to similar points, it is kind of seen as you're licensed to operate, right? And if I don't have this, I'm not good enough. And that is taxing as well.
Yeah.
Like that can be a severe detriment as well. Like, I don't have a lot of the certs. I should, though, is the mentality, right?
Yeah.
I should have them. And even I'm guilty of that. I really should. Like, what I do, I should have those certs. But I don't. And I'm working on a couple of them. But to get past that, like, I should have this. I need to have this. And then I've failed one of them, like, 3 times? Several times. It's been more than 2. And that hurts. Like, that's a kick. That hurts. That's not good. And that ties into my mental health as well. And then I'm like, well, I'm clearly not good enough. I mean, all these other people have done this. I suck. Why am I here? Why am I doing this stuff? That takes a lot of work to get over and be like, well, because I failed it. Like, okay, next. Let's move on to the next problem. But yeah, it can be real bad when you feel like you don't deserve to be doing what you're doing because you can't do what everybody else is doing or what you have perceived everybody else is doing. I'm never going to be the malware developer guy. I'm just not. I've abandoned that. But some of the guys I work with do it. So should I be able to keep up with them?
Yeah, I feel like we should probably play to each other's strengths and weaknesses, right? In our teams. Like, that's the reason why we have a team. It's not for everybody to do the exact same thing. And we just kind of have to accept that as a community, as a group. A large portion comes from that, like, hacker mentality. You have to do it for the lulz. It's okay to be humble, right? At the end of the day, you don't have to be the smartest in the room because you're only going to improve by being with others who are smarter in other things. Like, my teams, take like Jake Murphy, for example. That dude is wicked smart.
Nuts. He's
wicked
nuts.
smart in web apps. Like, I have no idea how he finds this stuff. And I learn something new
None.
every day. But
Yeah.
he's not as great in networking. And he comes to me when he has issues on that. And I help him out, right? There's no shame in asking for help. And I feel like our industry shames asking for help.
Yeah.
Admitting
Yeah,
defeat.
This old adage that I've been trying to live by more, especially getting into this field, similar to Lily coming from a non-traditional background, when you feel like you don't know everyone else, it feels like has this advantage because they went to school and they know for computers or cybersecurity or pick your poison. You feel like everyone else has this leg up. And one of the things that I learned when I was doing counseling was comparison is the thief of joy. And I try to live that as much as I can. Like, the more that I compare myself, the more that I am not able to take joy and pride in the things that I have accomplished and the things that I am doing well. But I think that's something that we just by nature do in this field, is compare ourselves to everybody. Even if it's not your field of expertise, you're always like, why don't I know that aspect? For me, my headset cut out, but I'm assuming you said somebody on our team is stellar with web apps. Every time I see him find something new, like, man, I'm never going to be like him. But I'm trying to be better about having grace with myself, having pride in the things that I do know well, and continuing to excel in those, and learning from people like him and like you guys.
And if it helps anyone watching, I have the 2 OS whatever certs hanging on the wall behind me, because I felt like it was what I had to do to get into the industry or to prove myself to others. And if you look at kind of my mental health on a graph, my lowest points were when I was studying for those and taking those. And my mental health has been considerably better making the decision. Like, I am never doing another one of those. And instead, I'm going to do fun research projects, which I enjoy. And I can learn that way too, even though there's not another frame hanging on the wall. So,
And I'd like to piggyback on that. Oh, I hate that term. Sorry. Anyway, when it comes to studying, it shouldn't be awful. It shouldn't be agonizing. And like, we all come from different starting points. And I am just so firmly against having a finite amount of time to learn something. Like, sure, maybe the exam may be absurdly difficult, but why do you have to keep trying harder to learn? Like, why does that part have to be so difficult? And like, the financial piece, not everyone has that. They could be spending so much of their money, but also life hits us all differently too. We are still in a panorama, and people are getting sick, people are dying. And like, I was in customer support for a certification company at the start of it too. And I would get countless emails. They only had so much time to take their exam, but like they, had a family member pass away and they just couldn't keep going. And like, personally, my father passed away, last year, and my mom was sick in the hospital nonstop. And like, to be able to like focus your brain on studying, if I were to only have such a finite amount of time, I only have so much brain resources I have to allocate to that anyway. And if you're working a full-time job and not making that much money, like, it's just stressor after stressor after stressor. They shouldn't make learning that hard on someone, especially if they want to learn. It should be a positive experience.
And then if you're going through all that, someone tells you need to be trying harder if you hope to succeed or pass or get ahead.
Ridiculous. That was my little soapbox. Right.
Do you think that kind of also, I think something that's interesting about our industry and something that I've also noticed with my own mental health was kind of moving away from the consulting side to an internal security team? I think the consulting side of things, there's client deadlines and client management and 1 week and 2 week tight turnarounds, and I need to do X, Y, Z for the client or finish this task in a certain deadline. I can tell you, I'm personally much happier working on an internal security team where if there's something I'm interested in exploring, I can spend 2 weeks on it. Maybe I spend 3 weeks, but there's not a hard cutoff of I have to get X amount of done in Y short time span. And I find myself just a lot happier now in kind of the role I'm in, even though it's the same type of work. Just the change, just the shifting of focus from the tight deadline to just more of this freedom to explore has been really valuable for me. So I don't know, if I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Still on the consulting side, obviously we've all worked for different consultancies and companies, so everyone's experience is different. But
I live in a consultancy realm right now, so I also find that, hey, we've got this week or two engagement. You've got all these tasks, all these things you have to hit for, say, a compliance test. In addition to that, go find me new stuff. Or fill out this 500-page PCI compliance thing and go find me new things. And in our week or 2 week long engagements, we can do it. But it hurts. Like it sucks. And then to also have that, like, and go find me new stuff. It can be really rough. So I hadn't even considered the difference there in like an internal versus a consultancy thing. But I can agree that on our 1 week engagement with a brand new client just to test us out, and then maybe they'll come back with more work next year or whatever. It can be super stressful. And to bounce from one to the next, brand new client, brand new environment, brand new problems. Go. Figure it out. You don't have time. It can be really stressful. It can suck.
Yeah. And I mean, having done the corporate, having done the consulting, I would 100% say I was less stressed and had an easier time in the corporate world than I have in the consulting realm. And I won't say that it's all negative though. I have found a lot of opportunity for that. The pieces of me that like almost the healthy competition, getting a bunch of variety of experiences. I really enjoyed this side. I think if that is something you're interested in, and this goes out for anybody that's interested in this field, getting into the field, or even interested in consulting, I think you just need to be even more cognizant, I would say, of your mental health, of how you're reacting to things, how you're handling things. And one of the things that I think you started to talk about a little bit earlier, Lily, was you are now, in this time of having a break, you're kind of addressing things that you may have neglected before. Do you feel like there's anything that you didn't even realize you were neglecting that now you're starting to, being outside of it, you're able to identify and say, I can't believe I didn't see this in the moment, but now that I've had a chance to look at it from another view, I need to prioritize this going forward whenever you get back into the security world?
I think I was pretty aware of all the things I was neglecting, which was stressful, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I haven't seen a friend IRL in 2 months now. I am purposely not talking to my mom because I know that kind of stresses me out. I am purposely not handling my dad's estate because that's such a large stressor, and I know I'll be down for the count the whole day, and I can't afford that in my working world. I'm not reading books. I'm not, things that like fill me up, fill up my cup in different ways. I knew I was neglecting them.
Yeah. No, and I was just curious. I can identify things in my life that I want to spend more time on. I have my hot sauce company that I want to spend way more time invested in that, and I've got a nonprofit that I'm on the board for, and I want to spend way more time in that. And there's a million things that I want to invest in, but I do love this field, and I do love a lot of what I do, and I want to be able to invest in that. But I also wonder, are there things that I'm just not even realizing I'm neglecting? So I talk pretty candidly with my wife. We have at least once a week, we have a conversation about, you know me better than anybody else in my life. Do you see anything that I'm neglecting? Do you see anywhere where I need to reprioritize and shift my my focus right now? And I got to say, somebody that knows me that well and somebody that can speak to my personality and be honest with me has been incredibly valuable for me.
Yeah, no, that's nice. Way to rub it into
nice.
It's both very sweet and also pretty smart. Like, if you're not aware of what you're missing and someone else is, go get the information. It's a good idea.
I don't think it has to be a significant other. It could be your best friend. It could be a parent. It could be a sibling. Somebody that knows you as well, or if not better than you know yourself. Somebody that you walk through life with every day that you trust. I'm a strong advocate of building to the best of your abilities, building a strong support system and leveraging those people to help you, especially when you're in some of these higher stress positions, to ask them, where do you see me growing? Where do you see me neglecting things? It's been a crucial part of me being able to manage everything.
Yeah, I would add to that just, therapy as well, right? Like, there's no shame in seeing a therapist, like just getting stuff off your chest and getting, just talking about it takes a huge load of stress off your back. And it's so insane. Like, day one, where did I cut out?
Day one
Day one to day 365 is like such a huge difference in like your own mental health and your own stress carrying capabilities. But I know we're coming closer to time, so there's one last subject that I wanted to talk about in the realm of mental health, which is the toxicity of InfoSec in social media.
My fave.
Yeah, I feel like, Lily, you and I have talked about this at length multiple times. It's no hidden fact. Like, Twitter and LinkedIn, like hacker LinkedIn, all that jazz, it can be quite toxic. Like, what do you guys feel is driving factors for that?
Ego.
Right.
Yeah, ego and need the need to keep up with everyone or surpass everyone.
I mean, do you think there's anything as like an InfoSec community, at least on Twitter and others, where we can affect change so that we're not like so aggressive to one another? Because like, I'll be watching some of my favorite Twitter stars like She Networks and others, and they're always posting things like of just rude comments on really good content, and it's just because it's like, oh, you don't know this shit, and you're like, dude, what? Like, is there a way we can affect the change as a community and like kind of band together so that we can be a little bit more supporting of one another?
I have an opinion on this. I think, we get a little too lost in the sauce. We get a little too Twitter brained of like, this is how we're supposed to communicate. This is the way we're supposed to do things. And I think just like stepping back, like all of us collectively, and asking yourself, what's the point? Like, what are we trying to actually do as a community, whatever? And I think the most important things that, like, you know, we should get along with and should agree with is, you know, collective learning, and allowing for collective learning. But then also, you know, we're the good guys, you know, fighting against the bad guys. Like, we can't keep dividing ourselves. Like, we need to lift up the people that are willing to fight for the good side and to defend people. And I think we just get too lost in the sauce and like, no, I'm the right person to go to for this, and you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, why?
Yeah, I actually feel like stop me from posting things on LinkedIn at times, right? Like, I know malware dev, right? I know it. I'm comfortable in it. But every time I post something and somebody's like, that's not how that works. And I'm like, oh shit, is it not? Like, it's just like an aggressive like point back, like, you're fucking stupid. Like, I mean, true, but like,
Yeah.
am I wrong? Right? And so it starts to second guess, and then it's like, then I'm not posting content that could help out individuals to help better like emulate criminal activity to the malware extent, right? And then it just makes everyone else kind of worse if you don't understand that basic level that I try to share in that. So I don't know, that's just a personal antidote to the situation there, especially with like the rudeness. But Bobby, you were going to say something.
I think also it's important that we're aware of it and we're having these conversations, because the industry is also unusual in that it's the lifespan of the industry is not that long. Like, the internet has not been around that long. And also InfoSec and cybersecurity has been around for even less than that. There's kind of this old guard, new guard aspect where you have these personalities of the old guard who have been in security leadership positions for many years and running these consultancies and running these companies. And then you have young people that are looking up to this old guard, and maybe they're not the best people to be learning from or emulating or following. And maybe a younger crowd is falling into the same bad habits that this first kind of generation of OG hackers did. So I think if there's people like us who are aware of the problem and don't want to see a toxic community, we're going to be in positions of security leadership one day, and we can continue to push out positivity and show that it's okay to post and not to get dragged down by Twitter trolls or random comments. Like, I think that'll help things overall.
Yeah, I mean, we're never going to escape the trolls.
Sure.
Right? Like,
But even David, you said like, you know, sometimes like, yeah, I am stupid. Sure. Like, we all feel like that. But like, say we do say something that's wrong, like, we should allow people to be wrong and then constructively communicate that. We don't have to just be like, you're dumb. Everything that you put out there is stupid. Like, no one should listen to you. Like, we should allow for growth.
One mistake does not negate all of the right things that you have done.
Right.
So, yeah.
Two recent experiences I've had that have kind of changed my perspective of the toxic social media realm. I had some research come out about Microsoft Teams, and I was like, oh, let's go look at the Twitter comments and see what it's saying. And someone commented like, oh, this is what happens when, you know, you give a script kiddie too much time. You know, kind of insulting my research. I was like, oh, like, maybe this guy's like an OG hacker, you know, maybe my research wasn't that good. So I looked at his Twitter, and then I looked at, his LinkedIn is linked. Let's see what he does. And he like worked in retail. So not only was he not in the industry, like not even tech related, and here someone sort of calling out my research as not being technical enough. And then I had other experiences with the recent MBTA research of people saying, oh, you know, they see the headline of, you know, whatever it said about the research, and oh, wasn't this already done in 2008? And comments back and forth like, yeah, this is old, this already happened. And if people actually took the time to click the article, click on my technical blog, which is like 28 pages, the entire first like 5 minutes of reading is about what happened in 2008, what's new now, how things have changed. So I think there's just a lot of noise of people who like to hear themselves talk, but don't really take the time to read or research a topic, and people put out a blog post and other people criticize it, and they probably haven't even gotten to the halfway past, you know, the first 50% of the article. So yeah, I think it's just you got to kind of cut out the noise of comments and trolls as best you can, and just kind of not looking at it has been really positive for me.
Yeah, and to that point, even like as people in information security, we should be caring a lot about our media literacy. And like, you know, we can't just react to a title. We should be able to look at the information given and synthesize that in order to speak to it. We can't just be reactionary and then, you know, cause misinformation to be out there, like the comments that you were receiving and people were discussing about your work, because obviously neither of them even looked into it.
I always see those comments. People say, "Oh, I stopped reading as soon as the article said X," and it's like, why did you stop reading? Like, why not continue reading before you feel the need to sort of put something out there in the ether, you know?
Oh, yeah, there we go. I was waiting for my timeouts to finish to kind of bring in the next question. Ultimately, like, you bring up a good point, right? We're not reading articles. We're just kicking back like anger, and we're like, this is dumb with just headlines. Do you think
We're not doing that?
Well, yeah,
other-
we aren't. But like, do you think shifting the mentality of the career or the field to be more scientific? Like, you wouldn't tell a doctor, like, oh, dude, that's not right, without reading the whole medical journal, right? You just read the headline.
But people do.
I mean,
But people do it every single day.
I think the
Doctors
pandemic
don't.
has shown that this absolutely happens.
I can find 3 pages that say that Bobby's research is wrong. Right. Yeah. But like, I don't know, maybe seeing ourselves in a different light, a little bit more scientific might help. But
I'll
3,
Th-
4,
Uh,
5.
we're good. Okay.
We back. Damn it. No, we're not. Yeah, now we're back.
Yep.
3 packets that time. It wasn't 2. I'm going to throw this modem out the window after this. Like, I'm not going to have internet for a week. It's
Film it. Content.
content.
That would be a nice.
That's going to be our new OnlyFans
Sledgehammer to
video.
the modem.
Man rages,
Dashes.
throws modem out the door.
It's our short form for the week.
Yeah. Anyways, I think we're a little over our normal time, so I think we're at a good point where we could probably stop and do our round table, go around the horn and echo any sort of advice that you wish you could give yourself about managing your stress and your mental health when you first started your career. We'll start off with Lily.
I don't know. I was like, please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. Say no a lot more. Say no to things.
I think that's solid advice. I'm just going to keep going down the order that's on my video. Bobby.
I would say push out as much positivity as you can and pay as much attention and give as much love to creators and people who are pushing out positivity into the industry, because the more we lean into that and sort of the dark side, I think the better off we'll all be and the happier we'll be on our roles and our careers.
Russ?
Talking about advice I'd give myself getting into this career: have more grace with myself. It's okay not to know everything. I don't know everything now. I won't know everything in 30 years. It's okay not to know everything. Just keep doing your best.
And then Alex.
Man, that really leaves me in a tight spot because you guys have already said stuff.
I have to go learn.
You're not an island. Yeah, hang on. Let me Google some motivational stuff. You're not an island. You're not going to be able to do everything on your own. You need to find a system of people that you can talk to, whether in or not in the community. People that you can talk to about the issues you're having, the positivity that you're not getting. Just take care of yourself, because you need to take care of you the best you can. Other people want to help you. Let them help you.
No truer words. Like, you're on a team, everybody wants to help because nobody wants the team to fail. I would say make sure you have a stable internet when you run a podcast. Now, in all reality, if I had to give myself advice, it's don't try to be the smartest person in the room. Surround yourself with others who are smarter and learn. Take the time to learn from those who have experience, and you'll find that it's a lot less stressful because there's a lot less pressure on you. But with that, Lily, thank you. It was good seeing you again. We'll make sure to...
We will make sure
We'll
to...
make sure.
We'll make sure.
Wait for it.
When did I cut
Wait.
out? Was it for the clap?
There you go. We'll make sure.
Oh,
We'll make sure.
We'll make sure to that the audio syncs up for the others. So we'll do one last clap and then call it. Yeah? All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, nobody did it on time. That's cool. Anyways, thanks again. And yeah.